Hey everyone, today I want to do a video about my most recent purchase. This is my new / used 55-gallon aquarium. The story behind this aquarium and why it was for sale was family had a teenage daughter who has a boyfriend that seems to be an avid fish keeper, and I guess because he was doing it, she wanted to get into the fish keeping hobby. So they bought her this aquarium, and she bought 4 fish and a snail to put in here. And after about 3 months, needless to say, she got bored of it and wasn't taking care of it the way she was supposed to, and her parents got involved. Well, her parents didn't want anything to do with it, so they sold it, and I was the buyer. It did have 4 fish and a snail in it. I'll talk about the fish and snail a little bit later in the video. What I want to talk about right now is you might notice that the aquarium is not filled up with water yet, and that's because after we got the aquarium drained and got moved over here, got it set up where I wanted it, I did a closer inspection and I found this. Let's see if we can get this on camera or not. I don't know if you can see her or not, but basically, long story short, these seals are shot. And as opposed to filling this tank back up and putting the fish in it, I decided to come up with an alternative solution so that I could work on rehabbing this tank. If you look down here, you might see an awful lot of glare, but I've already started pulling the seal out at the bottom here. And I think in my next video probably will be the end result after my rehab, after I get everything sealed up and before I put water in it. Now, it wasn't leaking water, but you know, I just kind of felt like it was getting ready to. It was a disaster waiting to happen. So I just went ahead and decided to rehome the fish temporarily, and I'm going to work on getting this rehab and getting it in a nice shape. I will say this about the tank. It was absolutely gorgeous. The pictures that I saw on Craigslist is where I bought it. And I think, you know, this wood grain is so hard to find in fish stores these days. I just think it's going to go really good in my basement. So that's kind of really the reason why I bought the aquarium. I wanted the aquarium to move my Mbuna into, and well, I got some fish that were already with it that yeah, kind of scratching my head about. So we'll talk about the fish next. It took about almost 2 hours. What I did when I went to the place that I purchased this at, I filled up 2 buckets. I filled up, you know, took tank water and put in a 1 5-gallon bucket where I put the fish in, and then I used a air pump and air stone to keep it oxygenated. And then I filled up another bucket to put filtration media in to preserve as much of the beneficial bacteria as I could. Now on to the fish. When I got home, it'd been about an hour and a half since I'd put them in that bucket without filtration. And I thought, well, you know, I figured the smaller ones, I didn't look at them when I caught them. I just put them because they stayed hidden. And I just caught them and put them in the bucket. But I figured they would be either haps or peacocks, being as they were kept with Severum fish. Well, let's take a look at the 2 smaller ones, because I put them in my Mbuna tank thinking they would have the size advantage and they'd be okay to put in there. So the 2 new ones that I bought with this tank is this guy right here and this guy right here. And after I put them in this tank and got to looking at them, I was like, you know what? These don't look like peacocks and haps. That one right there looks like a Kenyai. I guess with the 2 egg spots in the back there, a male Kenyai. And this one over here looks like a lap. I'm like, these are Mbunas. And I thought it was strange that, well, you know, it's I guess not a good idea to house African cichlids with South American cichlids because of the difference in pH balance. But on top of that, you know, Mbunas of all cichlids with, you know, South American cichlid, I'm just kind of scratching my head. I figured the Mbunas would be aggressive towards the Severan, but you know, from the description of that the previous owners gave me, that apparently the Severan were aggressive towards them, and they were always hiding, which is, yeah, I don't know. So, anyways, so I'm left with this dilemma of whether or not once I get this 55-gallon aquarium going again, should I rehome the two large Mbunas back in with the Severum, or should I just leave them here with my Mbunas? And so, something for me to think about. The strange thing about these Mbunas is their color. They're not, you know, I would expect both of them to be more of a yellow color. And it's not showing up. I'm looking at this video. It's not. They're looking yellow, but they're really looking, you know, without the film or without the camera, more orange. And I think the reason might have something to do with the food that the previous owners fed them, which I'll show towards the end of this video. So, moving on. Over here, this is how I rehoused the Severum. These fish don't act like the ones I see in videos online. They're real reclusive, and they're real shy towards me. They'll come out, or at least that red one there will come out and swim around until I get up close, and it goes and hides. So this is the 30-gallon, or I'm sorry, the 29-gallon that I'd originally planned on rehabbing. It was just sitting down here. I wasn't using it, and to be honest, I think it's in better shape than the 55-gallon. So what I decided to do was use the filtration from the 55-gallon and you know, set this up and put the snail, which is right there. I'm not sure what kind of snail that is, and these two Severum in here. I know they're eventually going to have to go into 55, but I think, you know, this will work temporarily. I just want to say, with all this rehousing, I did check the water parameters and keep a close eye on them just to make sure that the ammonia and nitrates didn't have a spike, and everything stayed, you know, where they needed to be in safe levels. So the thing, I guess, you know, I would say about this is, when I was getting this set up, I started going through all the bags of stuff, that all the aquarium deck decor and stuff like that, and I was looking for a heater, and I couldn't find one. So I texted the person I purchased this off of. I said, hey, didn't this aquarium have a heater in it? Because I remember specifically when I stuck my hand in the water, it was incredibly warm. It did not have a thermostat, so I'm thinking it might have been a little bit too warm. But I know it was warm. I remember thinking, wow, this water is really warm. And they texted back and said that it was borrowed from the boyfriend, and that they had to give it back. I guess through all the moving and stuff and packing and stuff, I hadn't noticed that they had done that. But that's all right. I ended up having her up to fish store and get that heater right there. It's 150 watt, shatterproof. My thoughts on these fish is that, you know, they're better housed with other fish than the African cichlids. So one of the things I'm thinking about doing is not rehousing the African cichlids that they were originally housed with here in the 55-gallon, and maybe doing something better like an Oscar or something. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do with them. Come to find out, you know, these things can get pretty big. Kind of a bummer, because I didn't really want to purchase or get involved with fish that are going to get larger, because I'm already in that situation. But I don't know. We'll just see what happens. So the food the previous owners gave me is this stuff right here, and I don't know if you can see on there. These are sinking pellets. The one thing that I noticed about the gravel in the 55-gallon was that it was absolutely saturated with dissolved food. It was really, really bad. And I'm going to open this up here. Let's see if we can't get in the light. Yeah, the water and the gravel, let's see if we can get it, was that color. And these are sinking pellets, and I think what the owners did was just throw the pellets in, they sink to the bottom, and then the fish would go fishing through the gravel for them to eat them. And of course, you know, kind of difficult for them to get all, these are just tiny little granulates, so you know, some of it would obviously have to sink down into the bottom and stay there. And it took so long to drain the tank, they didn't really have a good way of getting vacuuming it out, so it built up. But I suspect, given that color, might have something to do with why these Mbunas are a little more orange than the yellow that I expect them to be. So I think that's going to be good for this video. I want to thank everybody for watching. If you like the video, hit the like. And I'm actually, you know, I've got 8 subscribers, so if you want to follow along with what I'm doing with the 55 gallon, hit subscribe. Till next time, guys. See you then.